Childhood is about innocence and playfulness. It's about joy and freedom. Good evening to one and all. Welcome to BMC Global Live Children's Day special program, Wonder Kids. Myself, Marina Francis. First of all, I would like to wish all the children out there and also the little child hidden in each one of us a very happy Children's Day. Let's enjoy, let's celebrate the gift of childhood with BMC Global Live Children's Day special program, Wonder Kids. Before we begin, reminding you to do like our Facebook page and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, BMC Global Live. For your information, the results of the virtual speech contest conducted today will be announced very soon, so stay tuned for it. Today, we are here with a very new and exciting program, a live debate session. And the topic, a very relevant topic for us children, and that too on a Children's Day occasion, the rise of online learning during this COVID-19 pandemic. And we have some students enthusiastic to share their opinions on the topic. So let's not keep waiting. I would like to introduce to you all the participants of our debate today. We have Devika Suresh, studying in class 10 of the Indian School, Bahrain. We have Adila Isha, studying in class 10 of the Indian School, Bahrain. Arjun Fotedar, studying in class 10 of the Indian School, Bahrain. We have Anirudh Anand, pursuing BSc third year at IHM Goa. And we have Roshni Korlekar, studying in class 11 of the Indian School, Bahrain. And also myself, Marina Francis, pursuing BCom second year at Christ University, Bangalore. We also have one more person to welcome, the moderator of our debate session today, a very familiar face for most of us. May I welcome the moderator, Karthik M. Menon, pursuing second year BA LLB at Newell's, Kochi. So let's not keep waiting. Let's begin this wonderful session. Over to the moderator, Karthik.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Marina, for that humbled introduction as such. Indeed, the discussion or the debate that we have today is something that's very relevant and something that's the need of the hour. And as we all know, the rise of online learning in the COVID-19 pandemic situation. Youth are indeed the stakeholders of tomorrow. And it is our duty to ensure that the youth have access, have opportunities, and are completely sufficed with all that they need to become to their complete potential and indeed reach their self-actualization goal. And to ensure that, what we need to make sure is we provide them with the most ideal of opportunities, the ideal of solutions, and give them the best of the opportunities so that they could ensure that they actually create a society that has its social obligation and that has its moral obligation. And herein, through this debate, we try to create a new dimension. We try to create a new face. We try to understand the pros and cons of online learning and how we could make it beneficial for the students out there, how we could make it accessible for the students out there, and find out an alternative that is the most ideal and appropriate one to give to our students and ensure that our students are at peace and harmony with their studies and they're not forced by any means to be forced to study or not enjoy what they're doing. So without any further ado, we run into the topic to ensure the rise of online learning in the COVID-19 pandemic. Before we begin the topic, as all of you know, COVID-19 pandemic and its effects on the global health scenario, the global education as such, we know the kind of effect it has had on the students, be it their mental health, be it their personal health issues, or be it their way of approaching studies, be it their mentality of how to study things, how to approach or develop perspectives, how to facilitate interactions. And herein, through this discussion, we are going to make sure that our students are empowered to know what they are actually going through. And we try to be empathetic enough to understand that our students will have the best of solutions at the end of the discussion. Before we move on, I would like to get in some initial intros on to what this topic does and what our participants have as their stance in today's discussion. Over to you, Devika.
My warm greetings to all the viewers. Online learning is obviously the need of the hour because of the global rising safety concerns regarding the coronavirus pandemic. But it has its pros and cons. While the pros include that, the geographical flexibility and cost is reduced and it's more eco-friendly. But the cons are you have to manage your time properly and you need to have a lot of self-control. So I look forward to having a fruitful discussion today with all of you, and over to you.
Adila.
Good evening, everyone. As a student, it is quite hard for me to concentrate in an online class because this is the first time that all of us have been exposed to it. It has its pros and cons, but as a student, I really miss going to school, having fun with my friends, meeting my teachers, and I think I would really support regular classes, and I look forward to having a fruitful debate. Thank you.
So initially, from the initial thoughts, what we understand is that what students miss the most without online classes, without offline classes as such, is the interaction of the atmosphere that the schools provide. Because we understand for a reason that formal education is not the only aspect that students require. Students need to have a complete dimension. Students need to be holistic in their development. And to ensure holistic development of the child, we have to ensure that informal education is also imparted to them. And such kind of education is only provided via interactions, via an atmosphere where the students engage in discussions with their peers, engage in discussions with their teachers, and make sure that they eventually develop perspectives understanding both sides. Only then can we see the objective side of things. Isn't it true? So we need to give such kind of an understanding. But online classes, what we usually do is that we are under our comfort zone. We are under our own inhibitions, stating that we're not able to come out of that shell that we are in. We create a shell for ourselves, that we stay in this introverted nature, that we often fall prey to the aspects of mental health. And the deteriorating mental health is a huge factor that can be resulted via these online classes. Arjun, do you have any takes on that?
Well, in general, good evening to one and all. In general, I would say that online learning itself has its own perks, good and bad. But I would like to highlight some of the advantages that come with it, especially in a pandemic like today's. It is a much safer alternative than regular school learning, as it is safe and it can be done at home and anywhere also. It can also be done at any time, and it has many advantages. Like visual learning has many of its own advantages that are not provided by regular school learning at all.
See, as Arjun said, visual learning has its own impacts, because we understand for a reason that a student who watches things, he is able to comprehend things better. Rather than when you listen to things, when you see things, when you have a perspective of a visual image, you understand that image because it stays in your memory. But saying the very same point that visually straining your eyes for a prolonged period of time, you understand the kind of health effects that it has on the child. Anirudh, do you have any takes on that?
Like Adila said, first of all, very good evening. Like Adila said, none of us have any prior experience to online classes. We have not have any kind of warning or any kind of guidance as to how we're supposed to do all of this. But at the same time, as soon as we were thrust into this sea of online learning, we understood that we have a lot of limitations to ourselves. As in, I understood for myself that I am not confident enough to unmute myself and talk to my teacher through a screen. But at the same time, I am extremely comfortable while talking to a class of 80. So things like this actually make you introspect and wonder where this will take you.
So you mean to say that doing this over a prolonged period of time is naturally affecting the behavioral aspect of a child?
Absolutely. I think it's just that there is a different situation in both the modes of learning. While offline, introverted people might not feel comfortable going up on stage and speaking out. But since through the online medium, since they have cut out that process, they feel like they need to speak more. It comes from within them. So definitely.
So what we see from here is that via online education, what we try to do is that students can state or express their opinions more because they are under their convenience, they are under their shells, and they know that for a reason the opinions that they state are respected by their peers, are respected by their teachers, and it's being considered because they do not have the fear to go in front of a stage and state it so that they need to be a part of the class, so that they fit in. They can just make sure that they just need to act on themselves and just present their opinions. But stating this point also, we understand that any sort of education, any sort of mode of education needs to ensure a balance. There needs to be a balance that teachers present in their 50%, students put in their 50%. What happens in online education is that the burden of doing a lot of aspects of teaching or aspects of an education is via the children. Let's say we enter the classes, we log into our usernames, we log into the classes, we become participants, we put in our attendance, we submit our assignments, we help out the teachers if there is any technical flaws by their side, and we are the ones who have to leave. And if there is any assignment, we are the ones who have to continuously 24/7 stay by our online gadgets and present things. So don't you think it's unfair on the part that there is no balance that's being struck via this mode of education? Roshni, you have any takes on that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of time that is being engaged because of this. Usually, a student goes to school 7 hours approximately, comes home, and then we go on with the things that we usually have in mind to do. But now what happens is that assignments, and on top of that, other preparation that we want to go to. So because of that, like a lot of our time is engaged throughout the day in such activities. Whereas in normal situations, it's just restricted to that particular time limit. But now we engage in a lot of activities as such. And I'm not saying that it's harmful. I mean, there are two sides to a coin. So, I mean, like, you know, both the ways, it makes a difference.
So as Roshni said, what we need to consider here is that both of us, like many of us have our SEMs ended with right now. So that's why we're able to present here and actually give up a discussion on online medium. So if it was for our online classes and if it was for a hectic schedule, we would not be able to come up here and do this discussion here today, isn't it so? Because we'll have assignments to do. So firstly, we are extremely grateful for BMC to take up this initiative as such because they understood the point that education or the merit of the student alone doesn't determine any of his entire aspects, because students may be down or degraded by their education or academical spirits or academical control as such. But what we need to consider that the students have different dimensions. Students are good at curricular activities, co-curricular activities, extracurricular activities, and discussions or artworks or speech contests or singing contests or whatever only helps him to relieve from the stress that this academical burden actually creates on him. So we're extremely thankful for being in a show like this, and this is why our online medium can be a huge burden or a huge dearth with regard to presenting opportunities to students to actually express their talents. Because many of us are there craving for stages. Many of us are there who look forward for opportunities and who do not get it. So online medium actually restricts providing such opportunities because we do not get such stages anymore. We are the privileged ones from a many selected bunch to be here and present this discussion here today. So what I think is that online medium doesn't consider these aspects. Marina, do you have any takes?
Yes, that's very correct, because we are very lucky and we are happy that we have got this stage right now, because last few months our entire education system, our entire lives have been very different. And I think like many extracurricular activities that our education institutions used to provide, they used to develop us a lot. And we really miss all of that right now. New opportunities are opening up, but I think most of them are not trying to grab them, or it is kind of being not able to reach out to those. But I think there's more social interaction that is getting lost in this whole process of online, being everything online. Online, there are many more opportunities opening up, but that's when the actual face-to-face interaction is getting reduced. A lot of learning from that, we are losing on that. So I think there are many pros and cons to what we are going through right now.
So is sticking to the curriculum the way to go? Or is shaping a personality that makes the child holistic the way to go. Is thinking out of the box the way that the children has to develop? Is practical learning the way to approach things? Or we just need to confine our students to being mere robots who can just function the same way? We need to understand their creativity, their innovations, their ability to approach situations in a different way. And if we are to consider these things, we need to understand how online education can move from their monotonous way and consider for the opportunities of creating a different way of approaching education as such. So these were the initial thoughts. We would come up with more live discussions as to the pros and cons and what alternatives that we suggest via online education and how education can be made better for the students of the country, regardless of their caste barriers, their educational barriers, their economical backwardness, and how they can ensure for a better living standard. Stay tuned. We shall catch you after a short break.
NEC Remit has launched Send and Win. Download NEC Remit app now. NEC Remit has launched Send and Win. Win up to 2,000 points and redeem from our partners. Download NEC Remit app now. NEC Remit. Send money online to India. Credit in seconds with great rates. Download NEC Remit app now.
ബഹ്റൈനിലെ വീട്ടമ്മമാരുടെ ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ സംസാര വിഷയം എന്താണെന്നല്ലേ? നാച്ചോ ഫുഡ് പ്രോഡക്ട്സ്. രുചിയും മണവും പോഷക സമൃദ്ധവുമായ ഭക്ഷ്യോൽപ്പന്നങ്ങളാണ് നാച്ചോ നിങ്ങൾക്കായി നൽകുന്നത്. പാലക്കാടൻ വടി മട്ടയരി, ജയ പൊന്നി മച്ചാരി ഇനങ്ങൾ, നാച്ചോ നറുനെയ്യ്, നാച്ചോ വെളിച്ചെണ്ണ, മറയൂർ ശർക്കര, മറയൂർ കുടംപുളി, നാച്ചോ ആസാം ബ്ലെൻഡഡ് ടീ, മല്ലി, മുളക്, മഞ്ഞൾ തുടങ്ങി ശുദ്ധമായ നാച്ചോ സ്പൈസസ്, പൾസസ്, മസാലകൾ, കൂടാതെ നാച്ചോ നാടൻ കശുവണ്ടിപ്പരിപ്പ്, പനം കൽക്കണ്ടം. പ്രഭാത ഭക്ഷണം രുചികരമാക്കാൻ തിരുവോണം അപ്പപ്പൊടി, അരി പുട്ടുപൊടി, ഗോതമ്പ് പുട്ടുപൊടി, അച്ചാറുകൾ തുടങ്ങി വിവിധ ഇനം ഭക്ഷ്യോൽപ്പന്നങ്ങൾ നിങ്ങൾക്കായി നൽകുന്നു നാച്ചോ. മാത്രമല്ല രുചിയേറും ജ്യൂസുകളും പെൻഡാഡൽമൻ ട്രേഡിംഗ് WLL ബഹ്റൈൻ വിപണിയിൽ എത്തിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നു. ബഹ്റൈനിലെ എല്ലാ സൂപ്പർ മാർക്കറ്റുകളിലും കോൾഡ് സ്റ്റോറുകളിലും ഹോം ഡെലിവറിയായും നാച്ചോ ഫുഡ് പ്രോഡക്ട്സ് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ലഭ്യമാണ്. നാച്ചോ, inspiring natural ways.
Hello and welcome back to the discussion on the rise of online learning during the COVID-19 pandemic. So before we move on, the major factor that online education works on is the privilege assumption. To a degree, we naturally assume, or the institutions that conduct online education assumes for a fact that all the students who engage or who participate or are students of that institution naturally have access to internet, naturally have access to gadgets to be a part of such an education system, which is completely wrong and which is completely unreasonable. Let's consider a country like India. We are not confining this debate to a mere locality or a mere community or a country of Bahrain or any island as such. let's consider it in the big scale. In India, we know the economical inequalities that people have. We know the difference of people. We know how many people could naturally afford to have access to such luxuries or privileges. And assuming that these people all have equal access to these opportunities is unreasonable. Stating that we have had 2 suicide cases back in Kerala with regard to the same. But schools or institutions could enforce such a plan while providing data packages or free data packages to the students to attend these classes, which is being done by many SHU, NALSA, National Law Universities. What these institutions do is that they have the ability to provide for infrastructure facilities or data packages for the students so that they do not miss on their educational opportunities. But for the other colleges or institutions which indeed force the students to attend classes, assuming that they all have free and lavish internet connection is something that is absolutely absurd. So let's have that as our first contention before we move on to the next point of the debate. So is there any takes on this thing?
It's not just in India. In Bahrain also, many people are not being able to afford the net packages and laptops as such. So it is quite necessary that we look at the bigger picture, that we make sure that it reaches each and every student, not just a particular locality or anything. It must reach every student, because education is something that is very, very important in an individual's life. So we must make sure that we could have a data package or anything, that it reaches each and every student.
Exactly, because as we understand that right to education is a fundamental right of every individual and a fundamental right for the students. So if students need to have access, what else can we do? Or what else is the way to go to ensure that online education could cater to the needs of these children? Is there any takes on that?
One thing is for sure is that if a college or an institution is focused on comprehension, if they realize that their students need to learn, that's when they release such schemes like data packages for the students, flexible timings and all that. But if they are focused on just finishing the portions and conducting examinations, then all these things will not matter to them. So in such cases, as in, okay, I study in a government institute. So in a government institute, there's people from all demographics. So, and not many have basic equipments like a laptop or a Wi-Fi, anything. But the materials that we get, the assignments that we get, ensure that we need all of these equipments just so that we can submit them. And I think that's very unfair to some of the students.
So when we understand this factor, let's just consider what all are the mediums of online education that we have. For myself personally, we used to have classes via Google Meet, and I understand for a fact that they have classes on Microsoft Teams. We have other modes like WebEx, Zoom classes, Microsoft 365, and so on. But what we understand from the fact that we actually kept statistics for how much data is being consumed by having videos switched on for a 4 to 5 hour class on a daily basis. And what we understood for a fact is that we generally consume to around 1.7 to 1.8 GB in a day for 4 hours of classes. So what we expect a normal person with a good amount or reasonable access to internet is that they generally have a 2 GB package per day. And in spite, after having their classes done, you expect them to submit assignments on the same day, you expect them to submit work on the same day. This is being completely unreasonable on the part of the students. What can we do to this? We can have a more flexible timings. We can have alternate days of classes, ensuring that we can have fillers in between, because the classes get very monotonous. We can have periods in between in the sense as to arts or physical education to ensure that the curriculum is maintained, the curriculum is balanced. Is there any takes on that as to you need continuous 5 to 6 hours of classes, or do we need to have fillers in between?
Yeah, so for us, like in my school, they recently introduced the concept of physical education. So what we all expected was that, we'll have a free period between our classes for physical education. But what happened was after our classes, we have an extra hour for physical education. So that's just more like, there's a lot of time wasted on our part. So instead of like cancelling one period and putting physical education, they just extended our timings. So there's more data, we use more data there. And then that also, the physical education is not like we are getting up or doing anything. It's just the teachers explaining us the benefits of being physically active. So I feel like, and then youth festivals, like, in summer and all, we used to look forward to, in September, in my school, we have youth festivals. And now, like, there's nothing to look forward to, just every day of classes. So that's very monotonous and it's very tiring. So, like, and even if you're conducting online youth festivals, there's an extent, there's a limit till which you can conduct. So it's very tiring, both on our mental health and physical health. So yeah.
So let's make one thing clear for the spectators here. What we understand from this thing is that the education is being enforced being more theoretical than it used to be. There is no practical side to it. The students here do not know how to practically apply the education that they impart from the college as such. So let's see, if in case we assure that during this pandemic, in our exams we have reduced portions, we are actually only having to learn reduced portions, then why do we have physical education after regular hours of classes? Because we do not need that many hours of classes to complete the portions that's being assigned to us. So this is a huge question that needs to be placed, because we need to understand for a fact that CBSE or institutions that govern education across the country ensure that there is a certain mandate as to these many hours being provided for arts or these many hours being provided for sports. And this is not something that needs to be done in addition, but to be a mandatory part of regular classes. So as we said, this is the only way we could make learning or education more interesting for the students. Because as she said, there is nothing for them to look forward to. It's just science after English, after maths, and there is no way that they could actually filler it in. Because we understand for a fact that a student can only concentrate continuously for a period of 40 minutes on any subject. So when we are forcing them to do it over a period of 2.5 to 3 hours, it doesn't happen. Arjun, you have something to say?
What I want to say is that, like, since there's more focus on theoretical learning, all of the studies regarding the practicals in science, they are all just thrown out the window, like they mean nothing. In previous classes, they meant so much. There were marks for practicals in boards, and we had to study, we had to write so much about these practicals, we had to do these practicals, and the good thing about them was that it was actually a fun thing to do. It was a fun thing to do all of these things, to see all of these things that we studied about happening in front of us, and now all of that is just ignored for more theoretical, boring lecture learning.
So this is what is with respect to practicality. But let's consider for a fact that the teachers are actually developing different ways of teaching. Teachers are trying to make it interesting, be it via presentations, be it via research papers, giving you assignments, presenting it to you in a fun way. So how much is this online way of education a difficulty for teachers? That's something that we need to analyze.
I get that teachers are getting more and more creative in order to impart their material onto the students, but at the end of the day, it's all being filtered through a screen. And things like physical education, like what Devika said, it's just another 2 hours, another 1 hour of baseless, viewing of a screen. The whole point of physical education is to have mental development and just physical activity, which cannot happen in front of a screen. So if teachers can get creative, the fact that there's a screen right in front of them, it actually hinders their capabilities.
So with regard to this thing, after repeated discussions, what we were coming up was that we had an alternative to suggest, in the sense we could make this thing more interesting. Let's consider for a fact that if teachers can make their education customized. Via online classes, we do not have any personal interactions, or we're not able to give attention to a student as such. Teachers in the higher grades, what we generally see is that they can actually know the weaknesses and the strengths of their students and deal them accordingly, which is not possible here. If in a customized learning, what teacher can do is that teacher can actually assign the students to come up with a working model contest, or how to make optimum usage of your resources in front of you. Make a model out of that. Make a presentation in such a way that you cover the theoretical as well as the practical aspects of learning. And this way, teacher could actually know why the student came up with such an idea. A student's idea is given the space, a student's idea is being respected, and the teacher can have personal interaction with that particular student as well. And we urge the teachers to take up, or the authorities to consider for ways in which that they could make studies more interesting. We also had a discussion as physical education, we are not able to do, we are again reviewing these kind of images or reviewing the historical aspects of sports as such. Why do not we practice a way in which we could meditate? We could have a meditation thing, because what we need to ensure is the mental well-being as well. We can have 30 minutes of yoga. Like, these are different ways we could approach. Roshni.
Yeah, I mean, in usual times when we play sports, it always gives us a sense of competitiveness. It ignites the team spirit in us. And if we have PE classes online, we definitely do not have teams that are formed. Even if we have teams, many a times, as he said, that introverts tend to come out and speak more in online classes. They realize the need to unmute themselves and speak out. But it might also happen that people who were extroverts during the normal times might feel now that they might feel insecure right now. So what will happen that even if they form teams, for example, sport teams online, a few people might not be able to present their point of view, and they may get left out on such aspects such as team spirit, competitiveness, and the amount of competition that is there in the entire world.
So, yeah.
Another thing that I would like just to mention is that about the younger kids, the kids who study in lower kindergarten, upper kindergarten, those poor children are studying right now in online classes. And those people will be left out on the sportsmanship, all of the values that we learn from sports, their physical health, and their eyesight is also being affected by online classes. And what I would like to say is that is just, either we should do those online classes, or it would be better to cancel those online classes, because they're having more of a effect on the children's health, and health and education go hand in hand. If someone is not healthy, then they cannot be educated.
The funniest part here is that we naturally have a course called Moral Values and Moral Education. And these are principles that's being taught by moral values, and still students here do not know how to inculcate that practically. And it is very sad to see that our curriculum insists on us having such values, but we are not able to inculcate it. Roshni, yes.
Yeah, coming back to the point where he talked about health. So naturally, a person or a kid's eyes develop up to the age of 20 or 21. But what happens is that, so we are limited to a screen time. I mean, since childhood, our parents have always been telling us, don't watch TV for a longer time. And now the kids who are just in KG, they tend to watch a lot of cartoons on their mobile phones. They tend to watch a lot of songs on their mobile phones. It keeps them engaged. When in our time, we had more of a bookish development where we would color more often, we would read poems more often, we would play more often. So this factor of going out and playing with your friends, and what happens is that when a child is engaged in watching the songs or cartoons, and plus the amount of time, screen time that is put into online school, and it's suggested that it should be to a maximum of 2 hours for kids who have developing eyes. But here, online school is completely violating that entire point.
It's actually, Adil, you have something to say.
It is actually true, because we are becoming more and more lazy right now. That's something I can relate to a lot, actually. We are becoming more and more lazy. It's like you wake up, you're in the bed, you don't get out of the bed, you do everything in the bed. But when you had to go to regular classes, you had to get out of the bed, you had to come out of your comfort zone. That is something that we don't have right now. We are becoming more and more introverted. Children right now, they do not have any communication skills as such. They do not have any communication skills. Even the kids in KG, they don't have that teacher-student relationship that has shaped all of us. Because a relationship between a student and a teacher is very divine. It said Mata, Pita, Guru, Devam. That relationship is extremely divine. So the younger children right now, they do not know what it is like. They have no idea what is to go to a school, meet their teachers, have fun with their friends. So in the future, when they will be exposed to a crowd, they will not be able to do anything because they have not been exposed to it before.
Yes, like as Adila said, we all are becoming more lazier. For me, example, after every period, I feel the need to eat a lot. I just become hungrier, and like there's this constant snacking, and there's no physical activity, so you're gaining weight and health problems, and it's just you cannot get out of that comfort zone. You take the clothes from your bed, put it on the chair, then you sit on the chair and watch the class. It's just that routine every day is like that. And also on the relationship aspect, a teacher is someone who guides you and is there for you and encourages you, and student-teacher relationships are practically non-existent in these times. Also student-student relationship, like these times they have had like a big impact on all your friendships and a lot of aspects, and there's no guidance from anyone and there's no interaction between teachers.
Devika, I have a point of information to say. But as we said here, let's say we have students maybe like the age of 5 or 6 who engage in online classes for the time being. So when they are exposed to such gadgets, we naturally know that there is a distraction, there is a point of distraction, that they can switch to apps wherein they would chat. They might be switched to apps where they do not have any authorization or a supervision as such. So the kind of principles that it evokes on these children are too much. So we cannot expect these students of a lower age to be exposed to such data without any supervision as such. And expecting the parents to actually supervise the students early morning at 6 a.m. in classes while they need to prepare for themselves is a huge ask, isn't it so?
You mentioned parents supervising the little kids. The thing is, as it is, little kids have a very short attention span. If they're looking at something on the screen, one snap somewhere and they'll turn. That's it. But okay, since they're little kids and it's early in the morning, their parents will obviously try to make sure they're well fed, they're well rested, and all that. So what happens is, even if the kid is trying to focus on something which the teacher is saying, even if he or she is trying to listen intently, the parent will come in between and feed him food, give him water, and take care of him right there, which is not needed. Because if you let him be in that moment, he might actually learn something.
I guess there is a contrast with the Western aspects of it, because in the Western culture, from such an age, they make these children more independent, because there is a sort of dependency in the Indian culture that grows, and that very well reflects when these children grow up, as to their personality, as to their perspectives, where they become more reliant on their parents while they take any decision as such.
It is quite true that children lose their attention while having an online class, but the internet has its dangers. It is so dangerous, and especially when you're a kid, you don't know what the dangers are. So it's quite necessary that parents or the teachers tell their children that there are a lot of dangers to the internet, that you must take care of yourself, and there should be a limit up to which you can go out, because now everything is online. Shopping is online, buying food is online, everything is becoming more and more online, and there are so many dangers to it. So it is quite necessary that we know what the dangers are. We are given the education about what the dangers are, what to do when we are exposed to all of this.
She mentioned about dangers of the internet, but there are many benefits for a child at a low age to study from the internet. There are so many benefits. A child, whatever question he has in mind, he can go and Google it. Whatever question, whatever scientific doubt he has, he can go and find out the answer without any problems. He doesn't need to go and ask his teacher. He can find the answer from Google itself. And at the same time, in apps like Teams,
Byju's app to the rescue.
Yeah, exactly. In Teams apps and all of this, we know that the internet can hold so much of information at the same time, and this gives the children so much more freedom, and so they can learn so much more than ever before in regular learning.
But my friend, the question here is that you stress so much on education which is beyond from schools, education from tuitions. If you're going to learn or gain so much of knowledge from those kind of mediums, then why do you need school at the first place? Or why do you need education from such sources? Is there anything to take? Yeah, please.
Yes, no, when we were talking about small children, what I feel is small children, when they go to school, what they most gain is some cultural values or behavioral values. I think in the smaller grades, more than learning the textbook or getting textbook knowledge, I think by interacting with friends, how to make friends, how to talk with new people, all these were the things that we inculcate when we are small. And these small kids, when everything is going online, they are missing a lot on that. And also about the health, when we talk about the health, we still don't know what are going to be the after effects of such online mode of learning after many more years. We just know the basic health issues we find now, eye stressing out and things like that. But then I feel there might be even more greater health issues, chronic health issues going to develop for the children who took up such a mode of learning. Because talking about myself, I was a person who can't look at the screen like for more than 15 minutes because I used to find it very difficult. But then after online learning started, I mean, I changed a lot. Like now I have to sit 4 hours continuous in front of the screen and I'm like, okay, fine.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah, I don't have a choice.
Yeah, and when she talked about behavioral aspects and values, so this is more inclined towards the college experiences. Now, when you go to a college, you're pursuing a degree, you know what you are going to become. You can see in your mentor or your teacher, you can look up to that person. Ki, okay, I am going to be like so and by like this teacher or this person when I grow up, when I get a degree, when I pursue what I want to. So in such a case, and even like, okay, now this is in the more inclined to the college point of view. When we talk about kids, so if we have a favorite teacher of ours when we were kids, we always think that, oh, if I grow up and become a teacher, I want to become like her. So this is also a sort of emotional bonding. There is a chemistry between the student and the teacher. So this is being limited a lot.
True. So let's see. We address all the concerns here. We address the behavioral aspects. We address the concern of being interactive. We address the concerns of the health issues that's created, the internet facilities, the access that is being provided, the ability for children to foster their talents, the ability for them to develop as an individual. All this met, let's make this study more objective. We are just seeing it from the point of view of the students. Let's see it from the point of view from the authorities or the institutions that's conducting these studies, the teachers. We need to understand that it's a global pandemic. The expenses need to be cut short too much so that we could accommodate studies considering the best interests of students. Online medium is the only way that educational institutions can cut down on their electricity, their infrastructure usages. They can make sure that the students get educated, like the provision of being educated at the rates of the students because it's for their own benefit, and the fees reflect enough to actually accommodate the needs of these students as well. So we can ensure that there is a more of an expenditure saved from the part of the institutions because they need to take such an action to ensure that the students get what they need. So it is a matter of convenience that we get from online education. Let's see the pro side of it. Anybody with a point?
He talked about a global pandemic and online learning. I would like to elaborate on his point. See, nowadays that since this pandemic has come up, we have not been able to see each other's faces. But on the flip side, the thing is that our lives are more important than interacting with each other. Our lives have been kept safe because of this alternative to regular school learning. If we were learning in school right now, I don't think many of us would be here watching. I don't even think some of us would be here right now because our lives are kept safe by this online learning system. And what else I would like to say is that since online learning is such a good alternative, it keeps the child's health safe, and also it also allows for educational academic sessions to keep going on. So it is a good alternative. It is, I don't think there was any other possible way that this could be done, but online learning ensures that the child's health is secure, and at the same time the academic session is going on, and the child is also mentally growing.
Arjun, I think you'll make a good parent. because we are very concerned with the fact that the security, because as Arjun said, I would like to reiterate the fact that eventually if we are to enjoy the benefits of online learning, we need to be alive at the first place. So the security and safety is the primary concern. I do agree with that. Is there any takes?
Yeah. Most importantly, okay, when we were in school, and the teacher would used to write something on the board, and we were right there, we were copying it on our notebooks, and then she would rub it off. That feeling of, oh, I should have written it down. We won't get that in online because it's right there, it's saved, it's archived. So as per our own pace, we can go learn, and if we don't understand, we can go back to it again. So that, I think that's something really good.
Yeah, so the data stays there. So you can approach it anytime according to your convenience. Yeah. Convenience is a huge factor. Yes?
Online classes are very visual. Yeah? We now have access to PPTs, presentations. We can see what we are actually learning. This was something that wasn't available in regular classes because there was like a huge number of children, and now online classes, we can see the presentations, we can see what we are learning, we can know a lot about it.
Yeah, another part is that online learning has given us an option, because even in the future, even when the pandemic is over, there are situations like, you can't have transportation, or there are like holidays like hartals or something where conducting offline learning is not possible. You can use online learning, and because of this pandemic, we actually got introduced to a new option. And also the geographical flexibility. If a person wants to study in a college in maybe a very big metro city, but the cost of living in cities and villages there's a big difference. So a person can save a lot of money if he can attend online classes from his own house. He can be with his extended family members, and so a cost of living, you save that much money a year. So I guess online, and you can attend classes from everywhere. Like you can have a Zoom meeting with people from Australia or the US or India, and that's another aspect of it positive.
So with regard to this connection, I think for a fact that what this lockdown has done is that it has developed most of our personal relations, be it with our parents. We're at our homes, we're at the convenience of our homes, we're with our parents, we're able to share a lot of better bonds. And what I do agree with the fact is that we need to actually have a mandatory lockdown of at least 1 week every year. This is not because of it being a very reasonable solution. This is because I think all of us need a time for introspection. Because the modern lifestyle has made us more busy, modern lifestyle has made us more engaged, and thus we all need a time to take off and think about what we're doing with our lives. And this is what the lockdown has done. And we shall catch you with more information on the COVID-19 pandemic and the rise of online learning. Stay tuned with us, and we shall catch you after a short break.
NEC Remit has launched Send and Win. Download NEC Remit app now. NEC Remit has launched Send and Win. Win up to 2,000 points and redeem from our partners. Download NEC Remit app now. NEC Remit. Send money online to India. Credit in seconds with great rates. Download NEC Remit app now.
ബഹ്റൈനിലെ വീട്ടമ്മമാരുടെ ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ സംസാര വിഷയം എന്താണെന്നല്ലേ? നാച്ചോ ഫുഡ് പ്രോഡക്ട്സ്. രുചിയും മണവും പോഷക സമൃദ്ധവുമായ ഭക്ഷ്യോൽപ്പന്നങ്ങളാണ് നാച്ചോ നിങ്ങൾക്കായി നൽകുന്നത്. പാലക്കാടൻ വടി മട്ടയരി, ജയ പൊന്നി മച്ചാരി ഇനങ്ങൾ, നാച്ചോ നറുനെയ്യ്, നാച്ചോ വെളിച്ചെണ്ണ, മറയൂർ ശർക്കര, മറയൂർ കുടംപുളി, നാച്ചോ ആസാം ബ്ലെൻഡഡ് ടീ, മല്ലി, മുളക്, മഞ്ഞൾ തുടങ്ങി ശുദ്ധമായ നാച്ചോ സ്പൈസസ്, പൾസസ്, മസാലകൾ, കൂടാതെ നാച്ചോ നാടൻ കശുവണ്ടിപ്പരിപ്പ്, പനം കൽക്കണ്ടം. പ്രഭാത ഭക്ഷണം രുചികരമാക്കാൻ തിരുവോണം അപ്പപ്പൊടി, അരിപ്പുട്ടുപൊടി, ഗോതമ്പ് പുട്ടുപൊടി, അച്ചാറുകൾ തുടങ്ങി വിവിധ ഇനം ഭക്ഷ്യോൽപ്പന്നങ്ങൾ നിങ്ങൾക്കായി നൽകുന്നു നാച്ചോ. മാത്രമല്ല രുചിയേറും ജ്യൂസുകളും പെൻഡാഡൽമൻ ട്രേഡിംഗ് WLL ബഹ്റൈൻ വിപണിയിൽ എത്തിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നു. ബഹ്റൈനിലെ എല്ലാ സൂപ്പർ മാർക്കറ്റുകളിലും കോൾഡ് സ്റ്റോറുകളിലും ഹോം ഡെലിവറിയായും നാച്ചോ ഫുഡ് പ്രോഡക്ട്സ് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ലഭ്യമാണ്. നാച്ചോ, inspiring natural ways.
Welcome back. You're watching BMC Global Live Children's Day special program, Wonder Kids. We had conducted a virtual speech contest as a part of this Children's Day special program. So now it's time to get to know the results of the speech contest. So the speech contest was conducted in two categories. First, the senior category and then the junior category. We'll be announcing the results now. In the senior category, for the speech contest, third place goes to Adila Isha. Second place in the senior category, Austin Roy Francis. And the first place goes to Roshni Korlekar. So that was the results for the senior category speech contest. Now next, the junior category. Third place goes to Catherine Anna Monsi. Second place, Prarthana Raj. And the winner of the junior category speech contest, Sarah Rebecca Thomas. Now, apart from the three winners that were judged by the judges, we do have a fourth winner in both the categories. That would be an audience poll winner. And the audience poll link is already been out, and you will be able to vote for your favorite contestant till tomorrow night 12. So we'll also be having a fourth winner for both the categories. Congratulations to all the winners and best wishes. We carry on with the debate. Over to Karthik.
Makes me a proud moderator to say that two of the best speakers are in the house with us today. And with no further ado, we move on to the aspects of online learning that can be sometimes a part of controversy, but at the same time something that's worth considering. Andred.
First of all, I would like to thank BMC for giving me this opportunity, because I know for a fact that if I had said these views of mine out loud, either to my parents or my teachers, I would receive some very serious backlash. Especially since my parents are teachers. So, and coming back to the topic, when we were attending schools and we were attending colleges, there was a notion that, okay, since this child is in the school since 7 to 1 or 9 to 5, once he goes back home, he won't have much time for himself. So the amount of pressure, the amount of homework was very minimal. But now, apparently, since we're all at home, they assume that we have nothing better to do. So with this, there's an increase in the number of assignments, there's an increase in the number of tests and marks. So that kind of puts a pressure on all of us.
Something that I would like to mention is that because of these extra assignments or the new type of assignments we are forced to do, but there's a new kind of learning happening through that. We are introduced to the new technological platform, which we didn't know much about before. We didn't know how to use it properly, or the better uses of the online platform. Not just us, even the teachers, definitely the teachers, they had to go through a lot of learning about the online platform. And also not teachers and students alone, even the parents of small children, they are aware of such uses of online platforms only recently. So that's something, because in future we'll have so many more things online. So getting a knowledge about it is something that is an advantage.
True. Actually, I think it won't be fair on our part if we do not appreciate the teachers for actually adapting to the changes in the situation, adapting to knowing the technological facilities. Because I naturally see there is a lot of disrespect going with regard to from the part of students of teachers actually not knowing how to work technologically. They're not technologically efficient. They're trying or innovating many technologies to actually make teaching much more better for the students. But we urge from, I guess we are all on a consensus on the part that we urge that the students respect their teachers and respect what they're trying to do.
That is very true. As I mentioned before, we are now learning online, like we started like this year. And the teachers too. They've been teaching in regular classes since they started teaching, and now they have to teach online. It's very difficult for them also because they cannot see the children, they cannot look at their faces. For me, online classes are conducted with all of our videos offline. Like, we don't have to on it. So whatever we do behind screens, nobody gets to know. We can do whatever we want, and it's very difficult for the teachers. They don't know who they're teaching now. They don't know the faces of the students, and this beautiful relationship that teachers had, I mentioned before, it's not there now. So it's very difficult for them because now they have to become more and more technologically friendly. It is something that they didn't know. They have to prepare presentations, they have to type everything out, and this is something that most teachers didn't have access to. Because
but Adila, could I disagree with that? Because I would like to say that if it wasn't for these circumstances, would we have ever learned these kind of things that we would have never tried to approach, or we would have never tried to work it out or experiment before?
That is true. That's why it makes it so hard, because now we have CP education in our school. But for the teachers, they never had it. It's something that was implemented right now. For most teachers, they never had an access to the laptop or the computer. So it's something they learned right now. It has its advantages in the future, but it makes it that hard also. That is something we need to take into consideration.
One thing that I would like to say is that since we now know about these things, we can fall back. We can fall back on these apps. We can fall back on online learning just in case the next disaster might strike. And who knows when or where the next epidemic or pandemic or whatever might strike. So if it strikes in that particular place, we will have a system to fall back on this time instead of delaying 1 or 2 months. Because now we have finally had an opportunity to learn about this technology, and now that we know about it, we can utilize it in future when it can be utilized.
I would agree to that on a certain aspect, because the thing is that most of us who have had ear breaks, or most of us who have had maybe joining a new course, joining a new class, if it wasn't for this online medium or classes, we would have missed out on a year. And we know how much does it have a bearing on people who miss out on a year, because it affects you mentally, because you're away from your classmates are into a new course, you're the ones who are left behind, or your seniors are 2 years ahead of you. So you might be left behind in this race, and that would naturally hamper your confidence. So online medium of education, with that respect, is a good alternative to look forward to.
Yeah. You said that they would, if it wasn't for this pandemic, they would miss an entire year of their academic career.
Yeah, they hadn't implemented.
Yeah. So let's take college kids for example. What does a first-year college kid look forward to the most? A freshers party, right? Now, which is, I suggest, okay, if the freshers party was online, let's say there were 100 people on a Zoom call, they were all chilling, they were all singing songs. Do you think that is better than actually missing out on that?
Exactly why I say that we do not have a perfect alternative. See, given two choices of enjoying your freshers or having the ice-breaking session to expose yourself to a new environment, would you choose that over having a safety or security over your life? I mean, that is the kind of weightage, or that is the kind of alternatives or choices that we have, which both has its own advantages. Both are requirements that we needed. But to an extent, it is not being fulfilled because of the situations or circumstances we are in. But as Anirudh said, what allows a child to fit into a new college or fit into a new atmosphere is by having those freshers, by interacting with the students of the college, which is not possible via online education. And the online freshers do not have any bearing on the students. I do not think that is effective at all, honestly. So, do we have any more takes? But there is another aspect which I would like to highlight, and you all would have your points on it. What we have via online education is that we have a lot more persistence, or a lot more, it's being insisted that we need to follow the procedures of attendance. We have a marking scheme where we have 50% internals and 50% externals. So these externals are with the students because we need to write the exams and score the marks. So what about this other 50% of internals? A teacher can have, in case, can have her bias into selecting students that she likes of her own and giving them participation for class participation, giving them marks for discipline. So what if a student who does not have internet connectivity as such, and the student has to leave the certain meeting, and the teacher calls out that certain student and he is not able to answer? It's not his fault there. But without considering these factors, and just for him not being there in the class, if he has neglected the chance to score higher marks, that is a huge disadvantage or a bias on these children. And this is something that is not needed to be allowed right now. We need to switch to education or like examination modes that can purely assess the merit of the children, not whether they were able to be there at the particular instance in class. Isn't it so?
So like each child is different and each child has different talents and capabilities, and while a teacher is teaching them in the classroom, she has time and she has the resources to assist them. And like if a said child is introverted or if a said child is extroverted, but then they'll have talents in other fields. But then in an online learning, that's not there, because it all depends on how and when you can mute and unmute, and how and when you can participate in an online discussion. And there's a big difference, because in school you can just raise your hand and tell your opinion, but then in online you need to have the connection, and there's a lot of factors. So a teacher cannot fully understand a child, and she'll obviously give more marks to the kids who talk more. So yeah, that is a disadvantage of online learning.
And I'd like to pick on that point for a while. You said that a student who interacts more with the teacher, he is more likely to be favored, right? And the thing is, okay, students online or offline, they're always in a hurry to be the teacher's pet, for sure. This is everywhere. And with internet connections and with laptop screens, let's say the teacher asks a question. And if I'm supposed to answer, but I know the answer, but I haven't been able to unmute myself at the correct time. And just in the nick of time, let's say Karthik answers it. Who do you think she's going to favor?
Karthik.
See, that's why it is a survival of the fittest. You're asking a lot out of the children right now, because just because a child is not able to be at that particular instance at the nick of time, he is being deprived of an interest or deprived of a privilege that he was supposed to have. And that's why we need to ensure that the marking schemes right now are much inconvenience to the students, because we need to consider from the part of the students as well, because the students are going through a lot. The students are ensuring that they participate in the classes, they make sure that they attend the classes and listen to it throughout the time, right? So we need to make sure that the examinations should completely be based on the merit and not on the individual biases of anybody as such.
Yeah, one thing I would like to state that is that in an online class, we all have to mark our attendances, and marking the attendance, unfortunately, is a big problem of online classes. Online classes, in my particular app, Microsoft Teams, we have to mark some polls. We have to mark a poll to show our presence. But the problem is that so many people, because of updates going on in the app, they are unable to mark the polls now, and it has become a nuisance for them. It has become a huge problem for them, because the teacher, they know that they are in the class, but they can't mark their absence in the poll, and that's where she gets all her. That's where she marks the attendance from. So they have to mark the attendance in a chat box, and sometimes even that is not considered, because the teacher does not just the teacher just unfairly criticizes the child that he can't do it, and maybe it's his internet connection, but it's not most of the time.
Arjun, but you have classes via Teams, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have, the video is disabled.
Yeah.
So what other mode do you think that the teacher can know it is you who is attending the class?
Well, I think that a good way of marking attendance in an online class in another way is by raising the hands.
Okay.
It's a good solution. I have seen some teachers use this solution instead of marking the polls. And another solution is that, like, it may not be 100% guaranteed that the person, but we can download the attendance list, as it's a lot easier than marking a poll.
I see a lot of people actually keeping screenshots of the attendance because just to make sure that they get marks for attendance and such. So that is another issue. Is there any takes? Yeah.
Yeah, but we must always keep in mind that now we are talking about us who have access to all of this. We can also talk about families where there are about 7 to 8 children. What happens is that every parent knows that all of their children are their favorite. Every parent loves all their children with all their heart. But deep down, they know that out of the 8, there are 3 who are the best in studies and in their curriculum. So what can happen is that, and if the family is poor, the studies of the other 5 kids will be jeopardized. Because of this, they will not be able to access, attendance and all what we just talked about will then become a very secondary factor.
This is what generally happens in a poor family concept because the senior children in the family would naturally give up their education, take up some jobs, maybe take up farming with their parents, and naturally so that they could leave out resources for the younger children. Because that's what we do not consider the whole point of view. We ensure that education should be provided to each and every section of the society. But what happens when it comes to these poor sections of the society where we are not able to provide them with an alternative that they can also learn the same way as the ones who have the money? So it is completely absurd to assume such things on our part.
I think we can all agree that attending such online lectures, attending such online classes is a matter of privilege. As in, not everyone has the power to do that, and not everyone has the economic feasibility to do that. And yet, in spite of all of these reasons, the people who can't actually afford this are considered as lazy or slacky. So that's kind of unfair.
So completely what we say, we can try to study this objectively. What we try to come to a conclusion as such is that we can see that if you go for the cons of this issue, it is like so on and on, because we have the health aspects, we have the behavioral aspects, we have the interaction. There is no way that the student here is having an extra advantage or a gain that he would have had if it was an offline class, because there is no way we are expecting the student to come out with a different self of himself via online class, because all that online class tries to do is that just a solution for the sake of doing it, just a solution so that you could temporarily suppress the students to a mode wherein that they would not respond. They would be satisfied that there is some education going on, but they would not be satisfied with all their interests. But considering the fact that there is a sort of convenience to it, that any geographical flexibility to it, as Devika said, you can be at USA sitting right now listening to the classes that's happening in India at the space of your home, at the convenience of your homes. You could also be ensuring that there's a huge expenditure cut on both parts, and we also having a small gadget. It's at the tip of a finger that we have our classes available. And if there is a doubt, as Anirudh said, we can retrieve the data, we can look forward for the information, go ahead and approach it and study again. So, but weighing these both, we still need to understand that if an ideal solution is to be made, if an ideal alternative is to be made, what the stakeholders here needs to do is to understand the issues from the part of the students, understand the mental trauma that we're going through, because most of the students, it's just too much to take. We're not expecting all the students to be brilliant or sharp or bright in studies. We have to understand that they have their limitations, they have their disabilities as such, which can only be furnished by teachers giving more attention to them, teachers giving them more time, more space to work on with, which is not happening in an online medium. You have something to say, Arjun?
So there's this quote, it's like, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, It'll live its whole life thinking that it's stupid. So that is already there a lot in the regular classes, but in online classes it's increased because like children don't have an output where they can focus more, or like where they can put their talents on, like youth festivals or annual sports days. So it's all about learning, like rote learning. You by heart everything, you by heart your textbooks. So that is a really big disadvantage because like children actually think that they can't keep up with keep up with the class, or like they can't understand certain concepts and they think that they're dumb, but then they're not, because they're just more developed in another field.
It is indeed only right to assume that all these are gimmicks of a commercial aspect, because all what we do is that the educational institutions then tie up with these app developers as such, just to inflict some kind of injury to the sadistic pleasures that they get via online education on the burden of students, because we ensure that more and more apps come. How do you think Microsoft Teams, or how do you think Google Meet gained so much of popularity so soon? Because they just took advantage of the situation wherein online education is the way to go, and such facilitation would only ensure that this would like prolong for a more extended period of time, and we're not going to have offline classes anytime soon.
Yeah, because let's take an example of a below average child, okay? So when he or she goes to school, he has the peer group where they can express their views, or the peer group can actually help him or her to study. True. Up to an extent, but right now we don't have that. Nobody has friends anymore. The only friend is the laptop right now. So it is quite, it's very important for a child to have that, the ability to communicate with the social group or to help. That all of that values were given to the child through education, through school, when we were exposed to our friends or everything, because children learn all of this. If I have a bad friend, I might have his or her qualities into me. True. If I'm a good friend, he might have my qualities into him. So right now we don't have that.
Perfect, I get that.
Yeah, I would like to disagree with her, because sometimes that in our regular classes, most of the time, the things that were blocking children, below average children, from learning was most of the time the fact that they spend more time with friends and gossiping and stuff like that. I have seen people in my class who were below average and they are actually putting passion into studies now. And another thing that actually makes them more passionate is the fact that they are doing this stuff online. They have to make PPTs for presentations, which we do a lot. So I see that they have become more passionate since last year about studying, and they have done their work, and they speak up more in class, because now they don't have any more distractions about friends.
Yeah, the last set. Yeah, please.
Do you think this passion in them, this inspiration in them, do you think it's a compulsion, or are they doing it out of their own selves? Because right now everything is monitored. They're recorded, their reactions are recorded. So they are actually forced to come out like this. It's not like they do it out of their own free will.
It's not voluntary. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I'm outside of teams and stuff like that. I have actually personally communicated with them. I have done these projects with them. They have leaded my the projects that we do, and I see a lot of passion and they want to be better.
It's coming out of a personal experience.
It's coming out of a personal experience, so you can't deny that.
Yes, so another aspect would be some people whom we don't expect to open up have started opening up on the online platform. Some people whom we don't expect at all to speak in a class have started speaking in the class, and there has been the other side also, who used to be very active in an offline class has become very silent right now. And while speaking about the underprivileged students, there's also another dimension to it, that there are some those privileged students who do have access to online platform who misuse misuse the online classes basically. In between classes, making fun of teachers who are not able to manage the situation, and certain wrong behaviors which are not being corrected, because if we were in an offline class, it would be corrected. I mean, teachers would definitely correct all those. And these things are being encouraged through these platforms. I hope this debate session at least would be an eye-opener.
There is a significant reduction in bullying cases as well because of online classes, because they do not meet their praise.
See, let's take up a situation where we are no longer students and we have to go. Like, no job can be done online, can it? You cannot do a blood test online. So we'll have to be in a situation where we'll have to interact with our peer groups, with each and everyone. So because of online classes, we're not getting that. We're not getting that at all.
So yeah, but
And then Arjun said that some kids who were below average are becoming better now. But honestly, I think it depends. It varies from person to person. Because like online classes require a very big amount of self-control. And because while you're doing, like, you're learning, you can open Netflix in another tab and watch. And you can read on the side, because I've done all that. And so, like I'm telling from personal experience, there's a lot of distractions. And you need to manage your time very much, and like it depends on a person, like if they have that amount of self-control and self-discipline. But if it turns out to be good, then yeah, good for them.
Devika, with all due respect, your teacher is watching the show. So we know we have time constraints, and confining this debate is virtually impossible, because all we try to do from this discussion is that we get to somewhere that is beneficial enough for us to develop an alternative. We came up to certain conclusions as such, because we need...
Karthik, can you give me 1 minute?
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
Just a small announcement here. In our Facebook page, BMC Global Live, the link for voting for the audience poll winner for the virtual speech contest is active now. So I request all of you to soon go and choose whom you liked the most, whom your favorite contestant in the virtual speech contest for the senior and the junior category. Just reminding all of you to vote for your favorite contestant. Yes, over to you.
We do not have any development here. We do not have any encouragement or motivation for the children to strive for something or look forward to something that is interesting, something that gives them hope to look forward to, something that gives them the belief that there is a better tomorrow. All that the online education tries and does is to suppress these individuals with thinking that education is monotonous. Education is something that is worth being a better person, striving for better living standards. And if this is to be assured, we need to ensure that the education is made as interesting as possible. We came up with suggestions that education can be made more visual images or visual treats can be given to these students to make, because visuals actually stay in their memory for a prolonged period of time. And we also came to the conclusion that the examinations can be made more lenient as such, because research-based examinations, this would naturally determine what is the aptitude that particular child has, what is the level of knowledge that the particular child has in that particular subject. And we're not confining them to a 3-hour examination. We're confining them to an examination that's over a period of 72 hours or 96 hours, wherein they could actually sit and work, do their research, and come up with a project that would actually reflect what they know about the subject. We come up with the suggestion for presentations. We come up with the suggestions where they could make a working model, or they could make a demonstration of their project and explain it via a PPT, which would naturally reflect that the child actually has an in-depth knowledge of the subject. Eventually, what do we need? What do we need to know? What does a teacher consider as a parameter for education? Knowing that their child has known the concepts, knowing that the child has a certain basics in their concept. And if this is not ensured, there is no point in conducting an education. And education is not merely knowing what's the basics in your curriculum. It is about respecting elders. It is about knowing how to behave in a society. It is about knowing how to function effectively in a society. And if this is to be ensured, we need regular interactions. Teachers-student relation should be nurtured, should be enhanced. And if all this has to work, online medium is right now the only alternative that we have. It's not like we are left with a lot of choices to choose from. This is our only way to go for. But we can make this interesting. We can make it lively. It shouldn't be lifeless for these students. It shouldn't be that tomorrow when they go back to schools, they're left stranded without knowing what to do. They shouldn't be left that it is monotonous. There is no point in education, because education, all that the education right now has done or taught them is that lives can be depressing. Lives can be asking a lot out of them. And asking a child in their adolescence, a child in their teenage, who is going through a lot, who is going through an identity crisis of themselves as such, to actually come up and live up to the expectations of so many people around, it's too much to ask for. And this debate is ongoing. This debate will never reach to a conclusion as such. But all that we try to think or try to inculcate from this debate is that some suggestions or alternatives that we have put forth has been beneficial, and it would be considered in some ways, and there is no point in us talking here or having or arranging platforms for the people to express their opinions. They all are individuals and they all are worth giving their expressions or point of views. It's only effective when it's being executed in schools and institutions. And we also make sure that the initiative taken by BMC to inculcate such practices, to ensuring that 7 days of the week, the audience here do have something to look forward to, do have something to engage in, and these kind of programs would naturally foster a child to develop whole, because artistic, holistic and educational development is something that is required for a child to grow up. And we are extremely grateful for everybody who has watched this particular show, and extremely grateful to all the participants for being active participants in the show. Thank you and have a nice day. It's with extreme pleasure that we sign off from this show. Thank you.
Yes, wow, that was actually exciting to be here as participants in the session. Hope you too enjoyed it. We are almost coming to the end of this program. Now we move on to a function, a small function of appreciation for these participants who participated in this debate session. We move on to the distribution of certificate of appreciation for the participants. I now request the Chairman and Managing Director of Bahrain Media City, Mr. Francis Kaidarat, and the Director of Administration, Mr. Sudhi Puthanvelikara, to please come onto the stage and distribute the certificates. I request the participants to come forward as their names are called. So firstly, our moderator, who actually made this really interesting for us, Karthik. Okay. Over to the Chairman and Managing Director of Bahrain Media City, Mr. Francis Kaidarat.
Good evening, debate participants and the moderator as well, and good evening, viewers of BMC Global Live. First of all, I would like to appreciate, great appreciation goes to the participants as well as the strong moderator to lead this debate very fruitful manner. It was a wonderful experience. I am sure it was a wonderful experience for the whole community, all children in this island, of course. You know, all of us know very well the pandemic COVID-19 forced us to this situation. Online education. After all, health is wealth. You already discussed here. Health is wealth. We cannot avoid that situation. But when we force to that situation, we have to adopt that situation. When we adopt such a new situation, we need these kind of fruitful discussions to realize the pros and cons for the online education. All of us know online not only for education. Online nowadays becomes everything. At my home. Meanwhile, I would like to mention one point. During this discussion I heard, I was watching my mobile through mobile app. Lockdown has to be mandatory, at least 1 week in a year. I like it too much. To be honest, it should be mandatory at least 1 week in a year to strengthen the family relations. Am I right? Yes. I think you all agreed. I think our moderator put forward this point. I noticed it very well. So there are pros and cons. There are advantages and disadvantages. But through these kind of fruitful discussions, we have to develop. We have to put forward suggestions and recommendations for the authorities. This is what I want to mention. And great appreciation to all of you. And I think 2 winners are here. I don't know exactly who are they. Who are the winners? You? Oh, very good. Congratulations. On this occasion today, the Children's Day special. Unfortunately, due to the death of our Prime Minister, we postponed from last week two days. And this event was organized by a big team. Mr. Manoj, Mr. Vinayan, Mr. Ashley, Mr. Joy Poli, and the entire BMC team. When Harish brought forward this idea, the entire BMC team was working on it. Anyway, I would like to, on behalf of IMAC BMC, I would like to appreciate the BMC team as well as the coordinators of this event, and especially all of you wonderful children, wonderful kids. And for you viewers' information, IMAC Bahrain Media City is planning lot of events to educate, to promote the art and culture, not only art and culture, to promote the education system, to promote the online system. Entertainment and infotainment shows are planned. Debates, contests, speech contests, everything. A lot of events are planned up. It will come up very soon. So please be with us. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we move on to the distribution of the Certificate of Appreciation. Firstly, our moderator, Karthik M.N. Anirudh Anand. Arjun Fotedar. Devika Suresh. Roshni Korlekar. Adila Isha.
And Marina Francis.
Thank you so much. That was really exciting for us. So hope all of you too enjoyed. As mentioned here, we are looking forth to much more interesting debate sessions with more interesting topics in the coming weeks. So stay tuned. Do follow our page, and then we are sure to come up with much more exciting programs. This is Marina signing off. Have a good night. Good night. Take care. Bye-bye. So stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you.